So my first question, I hear from a lot of people that, well, 0.05 is really no big deal, that people are probably okay to drive at 0.05. So what is 0.05 in terms of impairment, or what does it mean in terms of drinking?
Well, at 0.05, which is about 2 or 3 drinks for an average male of 160 pounds.
And by drink, are we talking about Utah beer?
No, a regular beer outside of Utah, so it's probably a little more for Utah, so several more.
4 or 5 Utah beers.
Yeah, a few more. And at that level, you already start having impairment. So in fact, when we look at the fatal crashes, if you have a 0.05, between 0.05 and 0.79, you're 7 times more likely to be in a fatal crash.
Wow. So that's a significant increase in the risk of causing an accident.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about policy and the impact on deterrent effect. When we've looked at other places that have made changes, lowering their alcohol levels, is it a law enforcement effect, or is it more of a deterrent effect on the drivers? What are we seeing in the studies?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Sometimes we only focus on that little area between 0.05 and 0.79 because the current law is 0.08. But what really is important is that this is a broad deterrent. It's a preventive measure. So people their behavior changes when there's a 0.05 BAC law. They just tend not to drink and drive as much. So if they've been drinking, we're not measuring our BAC levels at every moment. So people just realize that they need to not drive after they've been drinking. It actually, in some psychological way, it separates drinking from driving because people stop driving and they choose other forms of transportation, or they choose not to get behind the wheel.
Okay, so just so to make it, so when I read the studies, what I'm seeing is that the prediction would be somewhere around 11% decrease in everything. So there's some sort of a reduction in probability that anybody who drinks would drive, whether they're at a low level or at a high level. Does that sound about right?
It's actually an 11% decrease in deaths.
Oh, deaths.
If
okay.
you have a 0.05 law. And what's interesting even more is if we look at other countries, and about 100 of them have a 0.05 or lower law, there isn't a decrease in the drinking. There's just a decrease in the number of people who are killed in alcohol-impaired crashes.
Okay, great. Another concern that some people have raised is, well, why do we just want to round up a bunch more people and throw them in jail? Isn't that what this bill is going to do, is just say, well, law enforcement, go round them all up and throw them in jail? What does the study show in terms of arrests, incarceration, in terms of the law enforcement results on this?
When there is a change in a BAC law, so we saw that from 0.10 to 0.08, there actually was little or no change in the number of DUI arrests. What happened is people just stopped getting behind the wheel when they were impaired. And the projections and the studies in other countries have shown that at 0.05 and below, there will not be any burden on the criminal justice system.
Okay, well, that's very, very helpful. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming out to visit the Utah Legislature.
Thank you. It's great to be here.